You snoozed twice this morning, spilled your coffee once, and you've already blamed last night's referee for your morning mood.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's time to embrace the chaos and step into the madness.
Bro, you about to see a side of me you didn't even know existed.
Featuring guests who are over-caffeinated and less reasonable than the average person.
Man, I think it's just ridiculous.
Come on, man. Are you serious? Ugh.
Fans, where else would you rather be than right here, right now? Welcome to the show.
So buckle up. It's time for hot takes and hot mics. This is the Morning Rant, where the only thing more unpredictable is Dave before his third cup of coffee.
I just felt like running.
On WPGY, the Sports Pig.
What's up, North Georgia? Dave Garner with you right here. This is the Morning Rant, a Monday morning quarterback edition of the show. Thanks for being with us. Hope you had a great weekend, everyone. A lot of stuff to dive into today, so we're not going to waste any time. We've got the big man with us here today, John Davis, joining us once again right here on the Morning Rant. How you doing, partner?
I'm doing great, man.
You're looking great, man. You got your Tim Hortons cup again this morning. I got my coffee, so.
I haven't talked to them, but I'd like to say we're sponsored by them.
I was going to say, we may have to work on a sponsorship deal here or something, but again.
And I'm wearing a hoodie, hopefully for the last time this year.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. I had to put on it's kind of like that in between, time where you kind of 50s, almost 60s. So it's not quite t-shirt polo weather, it's not quite pullover weather. You're kind of in between. So yeah, we're kind of teetering on that line. Hey, a busy weekend, and John and I are gonna chop it up for you. A lot of stuff to talk about. Of course, the Texas Open, a lot of golf news to share with you this morning. March Madness, just wow. I mean, unbelievable finishes throughout the course of the weekend. Opening night for the Atlanta Braves, opening weekend, if you will, against the Kansas City Royals. We'll dive into that a little bit. Chase Elliott, man, our local boy, getting it done in Martinsville yesterday. Again, we are the home of NASCAR Cup racing right here on the Sports Pig. And it's just a great race yesterday, coming down to the wire there. Chase taking it in Martinsville. And just really a lot of things to talk about. And we've still got to get into, we've kind of pushed it off for a few days, John, but we got to get back into our NFL discussion a little bit. We were going to talk about, streaming devices, this, that, and the other, but the biggest thing is we're nearing the draft. I mean, this week starts April. April 1st is on Wednesday. Masters, of course, cranks up next week, Masters week in Augusta, but the NFL draft is also fast approaching, and so really, man, we are all over the board here over this next 60 minutes.
Well, we are. This is actually, we'll get into it later as well, but this is actually where the GMs and the head coaches make their money.
Yeah.
And, I was telling my wife earlier, going back to the Masters, I'm worried the way this weather's been, we're not going to be able to see any of those blooming azaleas and how beautiful that course is out there.
I know, man. They always seem to make it work. That's the thing. I mean, that course is always pristine every time they play, no matter what. I know traditionally sometimes you have it where you've got a warm day or two, and then you got a cold day, and then you got rain and stuff. So, the folks out there in Augusta obviously do a great job with that. Hey, speaking of golf, and I guess we'll go ahead and, just dive right into it right here. Tiger Woods, man, a big story over the weekend in the middle of all the, the March Madness, the opening day for MLB and all these things. Tiger Woods, again, kind of doing it again, man. I mean, it was almost like a similar, I thought I was reading the same article from a few years ago, and all this time he's been trying to make his comeback, but, flips his SUV, apparently, another kind of a DUI situation. At this point, you almost feel sorry for the guy. I mean, because he's obviously dealing with something here, but again, that was the big news that broke this weekend.
Well, and you said something that I'm going to try to get into a little bit more about you feeling sorry for him. You're starting to see a pattern with Tiger.
Right.
And I was thinking about over the weekend, and we're not sitting here judging. That's not our place to do that. We're just trying to give our opinions and how we feel about certain stories and everything. Tiger's worth $600-800 million.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to get a driver.
Yeah.
And it's proven time and time again. But what I'm worried about more than anything, and I listen, I used to be a Tiger fan, and then I fell off the wagon back in the 2000s because of his attitude and everything. And then I think he had a little talk with Arnold Palmer, and he got kind of back on track.
Right.
And became a big fan of his again. And because a lot of the players on the league started liking him again.
Yeah.
Enjoying being around him.
Sure.
I'm wondering now if we're not getting into mental issues. We know that he has physical problems. And hey, I've lived it for 30 years, and I understand exactly what he's going through. But there's a point in time to where his handlers have to step up. And I had heard two comments. I'd heard one comment saying, nobody wants to give up their ability to drive because they feel like they lose something in themselves.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when you kill someone?
Right, exactly.
Or you hurt someone? Yeah,
you're losing more. Yeah, you're losing your freedom at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to rethink that. And then also, one of the things that kind of made me mad over the weekend was everybody's like, well, we got to make sure Tiger's okay. We got to make sure. What we need to be doing is thanking God that nobody else was in that crash.
Well, you're absolutely 100%. Yeah,
and
100%.
And that's what bothers me. Yes, we need to address these with him, with all the players, because I don't care what anybody says. There's mental issues, and we're going to talk about it in just a second. There are mental issues with every athlete that goes in there. The best thing that ever happened to me, Dave, and I never really talked about it for a long time, but about 2 years ago, I started seeing a mental health coach.
Okay, yeah.
And it's the best thing. At 58, it was the best thing that ever happened to my life.
Right.
And people are going through whatever they are. It's like I always tell my kids walking down a street in the neighborhood, do you want their problems or do you want your problems?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So clean your house up. And then, you work towards getting better. And then that way you're going to be better in the community. You're going to be able to help other people. You're going to be a positive influence for other people. Tiger has seemed to, I think, kind of lost that because even if you look at him at this PSL or PGL, I forget the name of the new league that they started.
Right.
He doesn't look like himself.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think a lot of people did saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't look like that jovial self that's having fun. Now, everybody can fake a smile, but as an athlete, I'm not an expert, but as an athlete, I can look at people. Especially in the NFL or NBA, you can always kind of look at them and say, you know what, something's not right.
Right, yeah.
And the way they handle the media, the way they handle their domestic life, the way they handle their teammates.
Yeah.
It always comes out in the end.
Right.
And I just think that we need to go back and say, okay, Tiger, this is becoming mental. Mm-hmm. You got a problem. You're using painkillers. From my understanding, alcohol wasn't involved. To me, because I have been on them, painkillers are way worse.
Oh, right. Because apparently he passed the breathalyzer test.
Right.
But whenever they wanted to do a blood test, that's when he refused it.
And that's going to tell you how many things are in a system, and that could be covering mental, that could be covering energy or your health, your body and stuff. And so I can understand, why he did that.
Right.
But it comes to a point to where you need to sit down and say, you know what? Thank God. And I'll say one more thing, and I'm an open book, and I tell my story to anybody who wants to hear it. I made a really, really bad mistake in 1998. Okay, when I woke up in the hospital, the first thing I asked was there anybody else involved?
Yeah,
and there wasn't. And I thank God, because I knew I was selfish and I made a horrible mistake. And I think about that every day, and I'm just thankful that I did not have anybody else involved with my stupidity.
Right.
And you don't get many chances like that if you understand what I'm saying.
Right, you really don't. But you again, you changed your behavior, and I think that's the most alarming thing with Tiger is that like you said earlier, we're seeing this pattern of behavior repeat itself, and that's when you know there's something going on there. So again, yeah, certainly thoughts with Tiger, but to your point, I think more importantly is that no one else was involved, because I think that obviously would have been a lot bigger story. It's one thing to give up your driving privileges because you feel like you're losing a little bit of freedom, but if you end up hurting other people in that process, then you're really giving up all of your freedom at that point. So I agree. I mean, with someone with his level of income or what have you, I think it would behoove him probably to hire a driver. I mean, I think that's a great solution for that situation.
And that stays with you for the rest of your life as well. Yeah. Trust me.
Yeah, it absolutely.
Does. And I think I'm really hoping that the PGA will rally around him, and some of his close friends will rally around him, because we're losing some of the old guard in the PGA.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Every sport's the same. You hate to start losing the old guard in the NBA, the NFL, the NHL.
Yeah, NASCAR, whatever it may be. You're right.
Yeah, you hate to start losing those people that can come down and mentor these kids. Yeah, Tiger, those guys a long time ago didn't make $50,000 a year, but you know what? They went through a lot more than we went through.
Oh yeah, right.
And so Tiger, I'm hoping that will surround himself and try to get out of this and make it a positive.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Hopefully he can turn things around, as he was getting ready to make a comeback, of course, at the Masters, and then a setback again over the weekend as Tiger Woods rolls the SUV, gets arrested for apparent DUI there. Hey, on a lighter note, with golf, Gary Woodland, we're kind of up against our first break here in a couple minutes, but your thoughts, John, because I know you and I had talked about this off air, and I know you're here to, we got Big John here. We're going to talk some football, I promise, but he's a man that has opinions about other things too, and I want to get your thoughts about Gary Woodland winning the Texas Open as sort of the lead up to the Masters right here, a guy that coming back from brain surgery, able to get the victory over the weekend, impressive fashion.
Well, I tell you what, that's an emotional story, because I've kind of followed him. He's the one that had that special girl that came out at the Management Open on that par 3.
Right, yeah.
That par in the hole. And, that was really special.
That was awesome moment.
But for him to go through what he did, his relationship with Justin Thomas that he talked about.
Yep.
Even walking yesterday, he was getting too close, or the fans were getting too close to him, and he was, and I can understand he was having, as he described, PTSD,
right?
Because he was like getting so anxious, and for him to pull it out, was just phenomenal.
It was phenomenal.
And, so happy for him. He won the U.S. Open. He has brain surgery. Has no idea, 1, if he's going to live. 2, can he talk? And 3, can he play golf?
Yeah.
And look what he did.
He went out and won it. Yeah, that was so awesome. Again, a lot of great stories. Yeah, already building on the links there. Again, Gary Woodland winning the PGA, the Texas Open over the weekend right there. Hey, the Masters coming up next week. We're going to be wearing our Masters gear next week right here on the Morning Rant as we get set. Of course, it's going to be a lot of fun, and you feel like weather-wise, you turn a corner when you get to the Masters. So a lot of golf news here in the first segment. Hey, we're going to take a quick time out and come back and talk a little bit about March Madness, the Atlanta Braves, and some NFL news. Plenty more straight ahead on this Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant. Dave Garner alongside Big John Davis. We're the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
98.1 and 93.7 The Sports Pig, your official home for flag-to-flag coverage of NASCAR.
Tired of shouting your business's name into the void and getting nothing but crickets? Your brand deserves more than awkward billboard glances and flyers lining bird cages. Right now, listeners are hearing me ramble on instead of your ad. That's a touchdown for missed opportunities and a fumble for your wallet.
Recovered, Atlanta, game over.
Your ad could be here, making fans laugh, cheer, and most importantly, call you. Go to sportspigradio.com or call 678-454-9552 and get your business off the bench and into the game.
Big opinions
Nobody pray for me.
of the big
It been
games
a day for me.
from the big mouths.
Man, I think it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's the Morning Rant on WPGY, the Sports Pig, North Georgia's home for ESPN Radio.
Sit down.
Back here on this Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant, Dave Garner alongside Big John Davis till 11 o'clock this morning. Chuck Oliver will be up next, the king of college football with Southern Sports today. Hey, appreciate you guys being with us. We had a great weekend. Friday opening night at Truist Park. We were broadcasting live over on our sister station, 101 The Pulse, on Friday night. And John, you'd be happy to know that we were the only non-Atlanta radio station there. We were sandwiched in between all the big boys in Atlanta, but nowhere else did you have more interaction, more engagement. We were the only ones that had promotional items. We were handing out T-shirts. We were throwing out, the stress balls. And so, again, we had some folks come by the tent, some loyal listeners from the north end of town there. And so a lot of fun on Friday night. And what was even better was watching the Braves getting opening day dub, especially after, starting the season last year 0-7. It was great to see the Braves win the series over the weekend. They took the first two. And I don't know if you caught that game on Saturday night, but that Dominic Smith grand slam walk-off was quite the scene there. Of course, Dominic playing his first game in a Braves uniform. And, his mom, we're doing It's Feel Good Monday today. We were just talking about Gary Woodland, of course, coming back and winning the Texas Open after brain surgery there. But Dominic Smith, his mom passed away from cancer just a couple of weeks ago, and he's able to be the hero on Saturday night there. Yesterday, they didn't do much, but again, they did get the dub there. So, hey, 2 out of 3, man, you do that throughout the season, you'll be in good shape.
You're going to be in great shape, and I'll tell you this, my wife and I were in between Netflixing and Prime and Hulu. I said, let's just turn the channel to see if what the Braves are doing. And sure enough, the ninth inning was there. And I was like, okay, let's see what happens, because this is one of the few times I have gotten to watch them on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
And I only like it when the Braves do it, but there was nothing like hitting that home run and getting about halfway down and then flipping the bat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the spicy
only the Braves
bat flip.
can do that. I don't want anybody else.
I don't want anybody doing that. It's like Acuna. If Acuna played for a team I didn't like, man, I wouldn't like the guy. But he's an Atlanta Brave. Speaking of, I would say the only negative maybe from the weekend, Acuna only had one hit all weekend. So he wore the collar on Friday night. He was 0 for 5. I think he was 0 for yesterday. So hopefully they get Ronnie hit. I'm not too worried about him, but definitely a slow start. But everybody else picking up good. We talked about Ozzie Albies, of course, coming out of the gate, his first at bat of the season, hitting a home run was huge. So hopefully that's an omen of good things to come as we talk about our Atlanta Braves, and we'll do that a little bit more tomorrow right here on the Morning Rant. We'll kind of recap the weekend and preview the series against the A's coming up as the Braves stay at home. We mentioned Chase Elliott, ring the bell over there at the Dawson Pool Room, baby. Chase Elliott, a winner yesterday in Martinsville. Again, our local boy from Dawsonville, getting it done right there, and that moves Chase up the standings there a little bit as well. It's been a pretty good season overall for Chase, but unable to break through into the winner's circle until yesterday, so he was able to get it done, and we'll talk about that throughout the week as well. Again, I want to talk March Madness, and John, I know you've got some opinion about it too, so I want to bring you into that. We were talking about that just unbelievable finish yesterday between UConn and Duke. Now, my bracket's long busted at this point, so I tend to not pay attention as much after the old bracket goes away, and I've been fortunate, like I said, the last couple of years with it. But yeah, man, I mean that UConn Duke, Duke up 19 in that game, really had no business to me even being in a position to win that game. Just the lead up to the final 10 seconds was insane enough. But the final 10 seconds proved to be some of the most classic, seconds ever in a March Madness tournament.
Well, and like, being the fair weather fan I am, I turned it, of course. And, being yesterday, we started Netflixing a little bit early.
Yeah.
But then we turned it back, and I had seen on my phone where they had cut it down to like 6 or 7. And I told Hester, I'm like, oh, my God, they're coming back.
Yeah.
I will say one thing. I'm not going to be controversial about it. But watching the refs in the first half,
yeah,
I did not see them physically call the game the same way.
Yeah.
I felt like they were giving UConn a little bit of an edge physically than they were Duke.
Right.
And I think that goes a long way, because UConn comes out in the second half thinking they're going to be able to play a little rough, be able to play a little bit more tough.
Of their style,
and,
certainly.
Yeah, the style of it and stuff. And sure enough, I didn't watch it, and I don't know how that went. But, what the rule number one is, when you pass the ball in with 10 seconds to go, hold on to the ball so you get fouled.
Right.
There's no reason to be passing the ball.
Yeah.
And I think that's more, to be honest with you, I put that more on the coach than I do the player.
Sure. Yeah.
Because as you're walking away, the coach is going to say, whoever gets the ball, just sit there and hold on it, and we'll get a foul. At least we have a chance for 2 shots, and they're going to have to go 90 feet to even tie it.
Absolutely. It was very reminiscent of the game a few years back with Virginia and Furman, whenever Virginia, had it, and then they threw the ball away at midcourt. Furman gets it. They feed it ahead. They hit the 3 at the buzzer basically to win it, and that was very much the same thing yesterday, although this was in the Elite Eight, so the stakes were a little bit higher because this determined the Final Four positioning for UConn. So, again, Final Four set. It will start on Saturday. Again, you've got, Illinois came up big, over the weekend there, and, that'll be a fun one as they get set to take on UConn. And then, of course, you got Arizona, Michigan over on the other side there. Both those teams look fantastic. I think that Michigan-Arizona matchup's going to be, it's going to be unbelievable. And so it'll be fun to see what happens there. Michigan looked really good, I thought. Yeah.
I will say this, going back to UConn and Duke, I have no love lost for either one of those teams. I'm not a fan. I think
a lot of people feel that way,
and I'm not a fan of Hurley.
Right.
But to watch when they cut away on one of the clips I was watching this morning, I've been up all night, but one of the clips this morning I was watching was the Rafferty and Grant Hill pick.
Yeah.
And somebody had made the caption, "We know now how to keep Grant Hill quiet," because it just showed them, and they were all in disbelief.
I love it.
And I, it was, I haven't seen a lot of big plays this year, but in the finals or in the 64 team, but those are they seem to come up at the very end.
Yeah.
And good for that kid. He 0 for 4, I believe, from 3-point range, and he just drains it.
I think he was a kid.
And I saw another quote. They asked Hurley, "What did you do after the game?" And he's like, "I had to go in the corner and have a little talk with God." And I was like thinking, well, the way you do things during the game, I'm sure he appreciates that, because that should be the first person.
That should be, especially in that situation right there. Yeah, the kid from Indianapolis, which is where they're going. I think they recruited him out of there, or got him maybe as a transfer, and he ends up, he was the one that came up with the steal, fed it ahead, fed it back to him, hits it from the logo, and with 0.3 left, and just an iconic moment. I'm one of those people. I love, being in broadcasting. I love hearing the broadcasters. I love seeing the crowd reaction to moments like that. I love going back and watching those moments, kind of like I did, Saturday night, Dominic Smith hitting that grand slam, hearing that crowd, that sold-out crowd go crazy, listening to Ben Ingram, in a game that, by the way, you could hear right here on the Sports Pig, listening to his call, and then, of course, March Madness yesterday, and listening to, Ian Eagle and all the broadcasters, Rafferty, who they said they almost lost him. He was so shocked, they were like, man, woo, thank goodness she didn't have a heart attack there or whatever. But watching the reactions of the announcers and listening to those calls, man, it gives you goosebumps, man. It fires you up. So a lot of great moments. Michigan had their way with Tennessee, man. Vols just a disappointing showing. SEC officially out of it now, as we talked about with the Final Four set right there, and that should be a lot of fun. Hey, we were talking about moments from the weekend right there, and there are a lot of them. I mean, you look across the board, it was just an outstanding weekend overall. So many things going on, it's hard to break it down here. We're almost halfway through our Monday morning quarterback edition, by the way, and on Wednesday we're going to be live at the pub in Elliott. So again, we're going to do a live edition of the show. I believe you might be at the Braves game, though, I think, possibly.
Yeah, we're finally, Hester's company, her and her partner bought tickets, and so we're going to go be sitting in the Chop House.
There you go.
have to leave you about 15 minutes early so we can get on the road, but we can talk about that afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. We'll figure it out. Hey, man, we'll do the best we can right here. No, we appreciate everyone being with us, being on board with us right here. Hope you had a great weekend, a Monday morning edition of the Morning Rant right here on the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com. Before we get into our third segment, I kind of want to tease it a little bit and talk about NFL draft. I know everything's coming up right here. There's been a couple of free agent moves, but I wanted to ask you, because I know you're a big fan of the UFL. Did you catch any of that UFL action this weekend?
I actually watched as much as I could while I was inside. Tried to spend some time outside. My daughter has been in the hospital for 5 days, and thankfully she is out. Everything is good.
Praise the Lord.
Yep. Kind of spent our time back and forth with her. But like I told you last week, always bet the under.
Yep.
and I was right 4 out of the 5 games, or 3 out of the 4. I forget how many. And but no, just watching what I did, them trying to tweak the rules a little bit to see what the NFL is going to do. I actually, the level of play has really gotten a lot better than it was even last year.
Right.
And it seems like a lot fewer dumb mistakes. You're going to have turnovers. And then at the end of the day, you're going to see your great athletes kind of step up and make some plays.
Sure.
But, A.J. McCarron got his win over at Birmingham. And, I just think it's, it's a good void to fill, especially with baseball, and then heading up to the draft. And, and if you're a diehard football fan, you can follow some players that will probably move on over to the NFL.
Yeah, and you're talking about some of those guys in the trenches, perhaps, with the play or lack thereof of the offensive line, generally speaking, across the NFL. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see some of these guys maybe that you're watching right here in the spring eventually latch on with NFL teams. We've seen that over the course of time with, even with Younghoe Koo. I mean, he was one of those guys that was in a couple of those, developmental, experimental leagues that ended up with a lengthy time with the Atlanta Falcons, but a lot of different stories like that as well. Hey, we're going to chop it up on the other side of the break. We're going to talk a little bit more about NFL, the NFL draft, and what kind of ego problems it proposes for general managers out there. We'll also talk about some other news as far as streaming devices, you name it, a little bit of NFL and football news coming at you here on the other side of our second break. Stay with us. You're listening to the Monday morning quarterback episode of the Morning Rant. The home of ESPN Radio is right here on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
98.1 and 93.7 The Sports Pig, where hot takes meet hot mics.
Tired of shouting your business's name into the void and getting nothing but crickets? Your brand deserves more than awkward billboard glances and flyers lining bird cages. Right now, listeners are hearing me ramble on instead of your ad. That's a touchdown for missed opportunities and a fumble for your wallet.
Recovered, Atlanta. Game over.
Your ad could be here, making fans laugh, cheer, and most importantly, call you. Go to sportspigradio.com or call 678-454-9552 and get your business off the bench and into the game.
We bring the heat. You bring the trash talk.
Come on, man. Are you serious?
It's the Morning Rant, live on the Sports Pig app and sportspigradio.com.
Nowhere else will you get the perspective that we bring right here on the Morning Rant. It's Dave Garner and John Davis till 11 o'clock this morning, chopping it up and really trying to cover this broad world of sports that we experienced over the weekend. We are going to dive more into our Atlanta Braves talk tomorrow, kind of chop up the weekend. Speaking of chop, and kind of look ahead to the rest of the week for our Braves. Again, you can hear all the Braves games, or at least most of them, right here on sportspigradio.com. Again, we carry all 162 in some way, shape, or form between here and our sister station 101.1 The Pulse. We had a lot of fun on Friday night, as we talked about being down at Truist. Got to see the parade of players folks come out and be down there schmoozing with all the big, Atlanta radio stations. But hey, none of those folks that were down there, with the exception of 680 The Fan, because they're kind of the flagship. But again, we're the only one that really carries them. Like we're the actual true affiliate there. And so we had a lot of fun on Friday night, and man, it was just a great weekend watching the Braves come back from a deficit on Saturday and win a ball game that they really were down 2-0 in the ninth and done nothing, and then all of a sudden, bam, they explode for 6 runs. And so just an exciting weekend overall, and a good way for the Braves to get the season going. Hey, let's jump in and talk a little bit of football right now. And I know that there's a lot of different things going on as we talk about NFL. Of course, UFL started, so we'll touch on that certainly in the spring. But the draft is coming up this month. I mean, in a couple of days we'll be into April. And man, there's a lot of things going on right here. But I know you've got a buddy that you kind of wanted to give a shout out to, who's very active. Speaking of some of this spring football stuff.
Yeah, but thank you for letting me. My old, well, I say old, he's not old, but Matt McWhorter was my coach at Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
He's very familiar with Elliott. He's one of those recruiters that spent a lot of time in Elliott when I was growing up and being recruited. Probably he and a guy named Jack Fligg were the 2 greatest coaches and influences in my life.
Yeah.
Mac was just wonderful, very hard on me. But he was very fair, and he was just a great coach.
Right.
But in his retirement, he's gone over to Europe the last 3 or 4 years, and I just got word about a week ago that he's headed over to be the offensive line coach for the Rhine Fire.
Yeah, there we go. Over there in Germany.
I texted him this morning, and I said, you got to get me a little swag so I can promote it on the radio station.
There we go.
And he and his wife Becky are headed out this Wednesday. I think they just married their son off, Mac Jr., this past week in Texas. So wish him nothing but the best. And I think there might be a couple of other Georgia Tech coaches that go over there as consultants and stuff. So I know that's a lot of fun for Coach and Becky to see different parts of the world. And we always get great stories from Becky through Instagram and Facebook. So we're looking forward to that.
Here we go, man. Mac McWhorter, again, a name very familiar. I remember Coach Mac, I mean, just over the years as well. So again, not a bad little, I guess, not necessarily retirement gig, but I mean, a nice little twilight there, in the coaching career to be able to go overseas and travel a little bit. Hey, time right now as we kind of transition into a little bit of a new segment as we talk some NFL.
911, what's your emergency?
Bold takes from the big man himself. It's Big John's Bold Take of the Week, only on the Morning Rant.
Uh-oh, the siren has sounded. That means it's time for a bold take right here. One of the things that we've been saving in our back pocket over the last couple of weeks is this whole streaming thing, and even with our Atlanta Braves, as we were talking about, I mean, it's kind of hard to figure out where to see them, and everything. And with the NFL, it's a little bit different philosophy. It's not just about being seen, but there's maybe potentially a greed factor, perhaps. I mean, the NFL is witnessing, a massive test to see how many paid subscriptions fans will actually pay for. Is this right or wrong? And here's the thing, John. It's gotten to the point where even the FCC is now seeking public comments on the shift of sports from free broadcast to costly streaming from the fan base as well. So what is your take about this, man? Bring this.
Yeah, it's not good. I think it's all, as you go back to, it's all greed. That's one of the reasons why I didn't watch the Braves for so long, because one, I could never find them.
Right.
And two, I'm sorry, I'm not going to pay $199 because I'm just not going to.
Yeah. And that's just for one stream. I mean, you've got to have a multiple stream. That's just for one.
Exactly. And so I did break down 3 or 4 years ago when the Bills started getting good, and they gave us the deal through with the Retirement Association.
Yeah.
It was about half off, something like that. And so I bid. Right. And I got it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go down here to my buddy's bar and watch it and have a burger. It's instead of $300, it's going to cost me, $25. To watch a game. And one of the things that you and I had talked about a little bit from my perspective, is that I'm way too invested in this.
Yeah.
I'm trying, honestly, trying to step back.
Right.
Especially with the NFL side of it. Now, Georgia Tech's a little bit different because I'm 22 miles from the stadium.
Exactly. Right.
But with the Bills and stuff, I'm just way too invested in it, and I'm trying to step back. But I think it's a bad move.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, and I would go down to Mama Green and Daddy Green's house and watching the Falcons with them. And we either could watch it on Atlanta station or the Chattanooga station.
Right.
It just ever depended.
Absolutely.
What you could watch. And you can't do that anymore.
No, you can't.
So I just refuse. Yes, we already pay for Prime. We already pay for Netflix. I understand that. But the whole extra subscription for the NFL, I'm out.
Yeah,
and I've talked to a lot of friends as well, and they're out because they're like me. You know what? That's a great 3 or 4 hour release for us.
Yeah,
but it's not. It's just not worth it.
Yeah,
and listen, we're a capitalistic society, and I understand that. I want everybody to make money, and I want everybody to promote. But this is, once again, Goodell and the owners and the powers to be are slowly going to continue to lose more fans.
Yeah.
If they're not careful.
I mean, you already have, Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime. You've got playoff games, things going on Peacock. I mean, you've got, you have to, it's not just one or two. It's not just Netflix. I mean, you've got to have all these different subscriptions to keep up, and God forbid you follow more than one sport, like Major League Baseball, for example.
Right.
The Braves were carried on that Atlanta First News or whatever on Saturday night. I was able to watch it yesterday. I'm looking around like, okay, Braves Vision, which is their new thing, but it's not necessarily they're gaining. It's so new that even though the season's already started, they still haven't completely established the platform on all the different cable systems yet or what have you. So again, you can go on Hulu, you can go on different things, but again, you got to buy it. And, that's just part of it. I think that's the environment that we're in right now. Hey, we were talking a little bit about, NFL and, of course, the draft coming up. But I wanted to ask you, speaking of the Buffalo Bills, because you kind of planted that seed and talked about that a little bit, anything that's jumped out at you so far as we kind of lead into the draft? Things are kind of calming down a little bit as far as the free agency moves with the new league you're starting. But you and I were talking about Buffalo. We were talking about McDermott, some of the coaching, changes and things around the league. What are your thoughts on that real quick, and particularly with your Buffalo Bills?
Well, from what I understand, and I could be 100% wrong, I'm just getting secondhand information from Buffalo. It sounds like there's kind of a clash between Bean and McDermott at the time he was working there, and I think Pagula, the owner, kind of maybe stepped in a little bit, especially if you remember a couple of years ago with Leslie Frazier and our defense, and had that Kansas City game, that horrible 13 seconds. Who's going to fire him? Where's it coming from? I want to keep him. I want him fired. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
The owner gets the ultimate decision.
Right,
And it goes back to the Bill Parcells. I'll say it one more time. If you want me to cook dinner, let me buy the groceries.
You're right, yeah.
But that's where that's where the egos come in. And I think there were a lot of behind-the-scenes egos with Bean and McDermott last year.
Yeah.
We did not have good wide receivers. The backup quarterback, suspect. The defensive backs, suspect. They're fighting behind the scenes with each other. Well, we all know who's going to win that battle.
Right,
It's going to be, because the GM is in the owner's ear every day. The head coach doesn't have time to be in the owner's ear.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So the GM's going to win. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that, at the end of the day, the GM's going to win. In most cases.
Right, in most cases. I think a lot of people in Buffalo felt like that Bean was the one that needed to go. So I think it was interesting they let McDermott go, but they kept Bean.
Right. Well, look at some of the last drafts. He hadn't brought in any wide receivers. He hadn't brought any defensive backs.
Right.
I'm not saying defensive ends and tackles are a dime a dozen, but you can find them if you play it smart in free agency. You can find you somebody, because remember, you're probably only going to keep them for a year or two.
Right. Yeah.
And because we're a league based on win today.
Yes.
Let's fix our roster for today. We're not building for the next 5 years.
Right.
I don't care what anybody says. You're not building for 5 years. You're building for 2027 or 2026.
Correct. Yeah.
And so
definitely.
I just think once they get in and start butting heads, and now I have heard, Deion Dawkins came out the other day. I don't know if you saw this, but he said there's just a completely different vibe in the locker room that we needed.
Yeah.
And so that says a lot.
That does say a lot.
Deion to me doesn't seem like the one that will talk too much.
Right.
But when he comes out and says something like that, that's a lot.
Yeah. He's pretty outspoken. I think Deion definitely speaks his mind there for sure, and he's kind of one of those guys that you love in the locker room. He's kind of an outspoken leader, and he's a lineman, which, typically the linemen, outside of maybe, outside of maybe one of the Kelsey brothers or what have you, or whatever. I mean, you're typically kind of the more quiet position on the team. Yeah. A lot of your more outspoken people are typically your skill position guys, receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, things like that. But to have a guy like Dawkins kind of be a team leader, but be up front, man, definitely a guy that I assume you probably would be a fan of. I mean, that just seems like the kind of guy you would really get behind.
No, I do, because, at the end of the day, we always took the stance that, everything that we had to stayed in the locker room.
Yeah.
And Kent Hull was our leader. He was by far our leader. But we also had Jim Richer. We had Will Wolford. We had some great leaders on that offensive line. But we had kept everything indoors, and Kent made sure the coaches knew how he felt, because it was a collective group.
Right.
Kent pretty much spoke for all of us.
Oh yeah.
And so, but we all in a way just kind of had a not spoken pact that we were going to keep our mouth shut and let everybody else do the talking.
Yeah, there you go. I like it. Hey, we're up against our final break right here on the Morning Rant. When we come back, we are going to dive into some draft news. We're going to talk about some strategy and continue the football talk right here, right up until 11 o'clock. Chuck Oliver will talk a little college football with us right here on, again, the Sports Pig. We appreciate you guys being with us on a Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant. We're the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Grand Slam! 98.1 and 93.7 The Sports Pig, the official home for the Atlanta Braves baseball.
Tired of shouting your business's name into the void and getting nothing but crickets? Your brand deserves more than awkward billboard glances and flyers lining bird cages. Right now, listeners are hearing me ramble on instead of your ad. That's a touchdown for missed opportunities and a fumble for your wallet.
Recovered, Atlanta, game over.
Your ad could be here, making fans laugh, cheer, and most importantly, call you. Go to sportspigradio.com or call 678-454-9552 and get your business off the bench and into the game.
From the buzzer beaters to the big hits. If it's making noise in the world of sports, we've got something to say about it. This is Now That's What I'm Talking About.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your all-access pass to the hottest takes in the world of sports.
All right, so as we get back here on this Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant, we're talking NFL. We're going to take you right up to the top of the hour, and then Chuck Oliver will take over, bring it back more collegiately. But Big John Davis and myself, man, chopping it up right here, talking about the NFL draft, and not necessarily specifically player-wise. I mean, I think we all know that, Mendoza at the top of the list. I know there's some different things out there, some conspiracy theories about trying to push Ty Simpson ahead of Mendoza and this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, what I kind of want to talk about, John, is strategy, because you give us a different perspective than anybody can get anywhere else. You haven't been through that process and seeing how teams work, especially from a GM standpoint, a head coach talking about the ingredients to cook with. So what does that process look like? Because to me, as a casual fan, I sit there and I think to myself, okay, well, you got a president of football, for example, like a Matt Ryan, and then you got a GM, and then you got a head coach. Is every team different? Where's the power lie? How do those decisions shape up? From your perspective, man, kind of take us through that process, first of all.
So I think what happens when the draft comes up, and like I said earlier, I think this is where the money is made between the GM and the head coach.
Yeah.
Because we all know what a bad draft can do for you. And on the flip side, a good draft. I think, as I said before, I think there should be 2, maybe 3 rounds, and that's it. But going into the draft, and again, I'm not an expert. I love to watch the experts because I love to see how wrong they are, after the draft has gone by.
Right.
But I think from what I have seen and experienced, your first 2 or 3 picks are your money picks.
Right.
They are, okay, the Ty Simpsons, the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You're going to find some very good offensive linemen in there.
Yeah.
Running backs are a dime a dozen because we know their lifespan is not long.
The position's changed.
There's a special one that'll come through. As you know, there's a special one that'll come through. And your wide receivers can be your next big pick.
Yeah.
So I know they're jockeying in there. Do we give a number 32 pick away to get a number 36 and a 48 pick?
Yeah.
That's what they're doing right now. I think right now that they're trying to figure out, if we trade, what are those trades going to look like? Especially in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
Now, once you get past the first 3 rounds, I think what happens is teams start filling needs.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, okay, we need offensive linemen, so they might draft 3 of the best. What's
available, what's left,
or what's available, or wide receivers, or DB, or a kicker. Everybody needs a kicker, and of course, we're not going to spend a lot of money on kickers until they prove themselves.
Sure.
So, I just think there's 2. I just think there's 2 phases to the draft, where the first day on TV is a lot of fun.
Right.
The second day you can kind of see the trading up and down and jockeying to where, there's still a lot of good players in those first 100 players.
Yeah.
So what are they going to do now? And then the third day is basically just filling needs.
Right.
And that's my perspective.
Yeah.
And until somebody tells me I'm an idiot, then I'm going to keep going with it.
So is it true? A lot of teams come out there and they say things like, "Hey, we're going to draft the best player available in the first round, no matter." It's not about needs. It's just drafting the best guy on the board.
I think that's stupid.
Yeah,
I don't believe that at all.
You hear a lot of teams say that. I think a lot of it is just trying to throw other teams off, or maybe just not wanting to show your hand.
Right. You know what? They probably, because they probably got trades already in the work. Some of them do, because your very bad teams. Good example for the Raiders. I can say right now that they're trying to figure out how they can jockey to get 2, even maybe 3 first-rounders, or 2 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders.
Right.
So you've got
build that capital.
Teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got those bad teams that they really need to make a splash into the draft, and so they might be the Jets. Who else? The Raiders,
the Browns,
I think
or
Arizona's
whoever.
Not very good.
Arizona,
some of those teams.
Right. Yeah.
But back when I was playing, we had 12 rounds. I was 11th rounder. I would have much rather been able to go somewhere as a free agent instead of going to a team that had 4 number 1 picks on it on their offensive line.
Exactly. That would almost make more sense. I mean, from that standpoint, I think that would make more sense certainly to kind of let guys have a choice of where they might want to go compete. Where they feel like they have an opportunity.
Listen, I don't want to sound ungrateful, because I'm very grateful, because I do believe today that if I hadn't have gone in the 11th round, I wouldn't have had the story I have today.
Right. Yeah.
But that's today. I'm 60 years old today. When I was 22, I felt a lot more emotional about it.
Right.
But I honestly believe that I went where I was supposed to go.
Right.
I played under 5 guys that I learned a lot from.
Yeah.
And that enabled me to finish my last 6 years and parlayed it into a pretty good career.
Yeah, no doubt. And you've seen a lot, you've experienced a lot, and I think that perspective that you bring is very helpful, because you can't get that anywhere else, like we said, except for right here on the Morning Rant. In the time we've got, I want to talk about, moving up, moving down. I mean, there's a lot of strategies that play out there. I don't know if you're a Mel Kiper fan or not. You may not like Mel. Hey, if nothing else, I think Mel's interesting to listen to. I mean, he is an ESPN guy. We are the home of ESPN Radio here in North Georgia. I love, Frank Caliendo's impression of Mel Kiper. I think it's spot on. It's like, here he is playing the SEC. He's a high motor guy. He's flying under the radar, and all those different things that we hear about Mel Kiper. But, your thoughts as far as like some of these teams, some of the moves they make, different positioning, so forth. I mean, if you're a team, for example, like the Atlanta Falcons, that you don't have a first-round pick this year, I mean, what can you do to maybe increase your stock capital, and what are some things that you can potentially do to perhaps move up if you want to, if there's somebody there you really want? What would be a draft strategy for a team like that, you think?
Right. Well, first of all, Mel Kiper, let's make sure everybody understands. Mel Kiper is for Mel Kiper.
Yeah.
He's got subscriptions that he has to sell.
Self-promotion.
He's going to say some outlandish stuff. I'm not saying all of it's wrong, but, let's make sure that we all understand that Mel's for Mel.
Right, yeah.
And so now you get back to, Dave, where you make your money.
Right.
That's why the Falcons brought Matt Ryan in.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a team that doesn't have a first draft, a draft choice in the first round. We don't know that by April 26th.
Right.
So they're sitting there, they're saying, okay, we got so much money under the salary cap. That's when you bring in Mr. Blank.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, Mr. Blank, give us a scenario that you're going to let us spend this money. And so now everybody is involved.
Right.
Does everybody have to agree? No. But when the owner comes in with a checkbook, then he's got pretty much weight on the decision that's going to be made.
Right.
Matt Ryan seems like to be a very football sense guy.
Sure.
Very level-headed guy, very unemotional guy.
Yeah.
That I think is in the right now. They're doing their evaluating. It would not surprise me, Dave, if they make a choice to bring a quarterback in. It just wouldn't, because I think the 2 quarterbacks they have now are not good.
Right. Yeah.
And one, we don't think Tagovailoa is going to stay around that long because of injury, because it only takes one hit.
Yeah, I was going to say one more hit may be it.
It could be done. And I just don't think Penix is a good quarterback, and that's just me.
Right. Yeah.
And so it wouldn't surprise me if there's. Especially the Falcons aren't working on trades right now.
Yeah.
Talking to Mr. Blank to say, okay, what kind of money do we have? What does it look like? And then and of course we're not going to hear anything until the draft day.
Yeah, until it happens. They already brought in Trevor Siemian too, a veteran there. So again, there's a lot of unsettledness, I guess, with this Atlanta Falcons team.
Well, I'm sorry to cut you off, but one of the things that I was going to tell you about that we've kind of talked about is obviously having a starting quarterback is very important.
Yeah.
What's the second hardest position? Is the backup quarterback.
You're right.
You better get the backup right.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're done.
Yeah.
And so they brought in Trevor. I think that's great. You know what? It would not surprise me. As smart as Ryan is, it would not surprise me that they at least don't put on the table one of the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks to bring in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If they're sitting there and you're picking, middle second round, I think if you're the Falcons at this point right here, they mortgaged away their first-round pick this year on James Pierce Jr. last year, which 10.5 sacks later looked like a pretty good move, but now with all the legal trouble and, potentially not returning there, all of a sudden it looks bad, and some of those, character issues that weren't there must have definitely reared their ugly head.
Well, And one other thing that you've got to realize as well, you can get a lot. You can hit a home run with 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
If you do, it goes back to what you just said. If you can find a good character kid that might have had a couple of injuries in their college career, but he's got a great motor. He's got a great attitude. He brought a lot to the team. The head coaches at the college say, you know what? This kid's good. This kid's mentally into it. This kid's not going to cause you any problems. Yeah. I'd give him a shot. So there are some. Look, I was 11th rounder. I made it longer than 6 of our draft choices in 1987.
Yeah.
And so. Call it blessed, call it lucky, or whatever. I call it just about everything.
Right.
and being put into the right position.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying, just because I'd like to see the draft at 3 rounds, I would. Don't discount the later round guys, because there are some kids that can come in. Might take them a year to break into it, but there are some kids that'll come in and be productive for you.
There you go. So 30 seconds, about all we got right here. You got a Georgia Tech hoodie on here today. What about Hayes King, man? What does the future look like for him?
I don't know. I know he's very football smart.
Yeah.
I look at him almost like a Trubisky.
Right.
And I'm going to be honest with you, because I love the kid quickly. I didn't think he had the arm strength to get it downfield.
Yeah.
Well, apparently I was proven wrong at the combine.
Yeah.
So
he's looked pretty good, apparently. Yeah.
Haynes is one of those maybe backups, solid, maybe a third round or third string that can work himself up and maybe have a possibly good career as a backup and maybe a starter if he gets a right chance.
There we go. The perspective from Big John Davis right here, once again bringing it on this Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant. Hey, we're out of time today. We appreciate you guys listening. We'll be back tomorrow as we dive a little bit further into March Madness and our Atlanta Braves. John, thanks for being with us right here on the program, buddy, and we'll see you later in the week.
You got it. See you Wednesday.
All right, man. Once again, we are the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the SportsPig app and online at sportspigradio.com. This is the Morning Rant, Monday through Friday, live from 10 to 11 right here on SportsPig Radio. Chuck Oliver is up next, the king of college football with Southern Sports Today. Stay with us. We'll see you tomorrow morning right here.
98.1 and 93.7 The Sports Pig, your official home for Georgia Bulldogs basketball.
My